In the beginning, there were no nations as we know them today, only scattered tribes, early settlements, and fragile beginnings of civilization. But as humans learned to farm, build, and organize, something changed forever. Resources became valuable, land became power, and power always attracts conflict. What followed was not a single story, but a long chain of wars that shaped every corner of the modern world. Empires rose from blood and conquest. Borders were drawn and redrawn by steel and fire, and every generation believed its wars would be the last that mattered. But history never stops. It only evolves. The first great conflicts of humanity began long before recorded history fully formed. Early tribal warfare was not about ideology or religion, but survival. Groups fought over water sources, hunting grounds, and fertile land. These early clashes set the foundation for what war would become: organized, strategic, and deeply tied to human identity. As civilizations emerged in Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China, war became more structured. Armies formed, weapons advanced, leaders rose who commanded thousands instead of dozens. For the first time, war was not just survival, it was expansion. One of the earliest recorded empires was Sumer, where city-states like Uruk and Ur fought constantly for dominance. These conflicts shaped early military organization and introduced one of humanity's most important inventions: the professional soldier. Soon after, the Akkadian Empire under Sargon the Great unified much of Mesopotamia through conquest, showing the world that war could build empires, not just destroy them. In ancient Egypt, warfare against neighboring Nubia and rival kingdoms helped secure control of the Nile. The Nile was not just a river, it was life itself. Whoever controlled it controlled civilization. Pharaohs used military power to protect trade routes and expand influence deep into surrounding regions. Meanwhile, in the east, early Chinese dynasties such as the Shang and Zhou engaged in continuous warfare. The concept of the mandate of heaven emerged, justifying war as a divine right to rule. If a dynasty became weak or corrupt, it was considered morally justified for another to replace it through force. This belief would shape Chinese warfare for thousands of years. As time moved forward, war became more complex. In ancient Greece, conflict evolved into something more strategic and ideological. The Persian Wars marked one of the first major clashes between East and West. The mighty Persian Empire, one of the largest in history, attempted to conquer the independent Greek city-states. At battles like Marathon and Thermopylae, small Greek forces managed to resist overwhelming Persian armies. These wars defined the idea that strategy and unity could defeat even the largest empires. Shortly after, Greece fell into internal conflict during the Peloponnesian War. Athens and Sparta, two of the most powerful city-states, fought for dominance. The war lasted decades and weakened all sides, showing a brutal truth. Sometimes war destroys the victor as much as the defeated. But from this chaos, a new power rose: Macedonia. Under Alexander the Great, war transformed into rapid expansion on an unprecedented scale. Alexander conquered Greece, Egypt, Persia, and reached as far as India before his death. His campaigns spread Greek culture across 3 continents, creating the Hellenistic world. War was no longer just destruction. It was cultural transformation. Then came Rome. Rome perfected the art of war into an unstoppable system. Discipline, training, and engineering allowed Roman legions to conquer vast territories across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The Punic Wars against Carthage defined Rome's rise as a global superpower. Hannibal's famous crossing of the Alps with war elephants became one of history's most legendary military campaigns. But ultimately, Rome prevailed. As Rome expanded, war became the engine of empire. Every conquest brought wealth, slaves, and land. But internal wars soon became just as dangerous as external ones. Civil wars shattered the Republic, and figures like Julius Caesar used military loyalty to seize political power. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon River, he didn't just start a war, he changed the course of Western civilization. After his assassination, Rome descended into more civil conflict until Augustus established the Roman Empire, bringing temporary peace known as the Pax Romana. But even this peace was maintained through constant military strength along the borders. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, war was also shaping destiny. In India, powerful empires like the Maurya under Ashoka expanded through conquest before Ashoka transformed after witnessing the devastation of war, turning toward Buddhism and non-violence. His story showed that war could also lead to philosophical change. In the Americas, civilizations such as the Maya and later the Aztecs developed highly structured warfare systems. The Aztecs used war not only for expansion, but also for religious purposes, capturing prisoners for ritual sacrifice. Their empire grew through fear and tribute, dominating large parts of Mesoamerica until the arrival of the Spanish. In Central Asia, a new force emerged that would redefine warfare entirely: the Mongols. Under Genghis Khan, the Mongol Empire became the largest contiguous land empire in history. Their warfare was fast, brutal, and highly coordinated. Entire cities fell within days. Psychological warfare, mobility, and strategy allowed a relatively small group of nomadic warriors to conquer from China to Eastern Europe. The Mongol invasions reshaped trade routes, connected civilizations, and spread ideas across continents, but at an enormous human cost. As the medieval world continued, war became deeply tied to religion. The Crusades erupted between Christian and Muslim forces over control of the Holy Land. These wars lasted centuries and involved some of the most powerful kingdoms of Europe and the Middle East. Cities changed hands multiple times, and entire regions were transformed by religious conflict. The Crusades also reopened trade routes and cultural exchange, connecting East and West in new ways. At the same time, Europe experienced feudal warfare, where local lords controlled armies and land. Castles, knights, and armored cavalry defined this era. Warfare was slower, but heavily armored and strategic in siegecraft. In Asia, powerful dynasties like the Song, Yuan, and Ming in China fought to maintain stability against internal rebellions and external invasions. Gunpowder technology, invented in China, began to transform warfare forever, spreading across the world and changing how battles were fought. Then came a global turning point: exploration and colonization. When European powers began sailing across oceans, they encountered entire civilizations previously unknown to them. This led to some of the most devastating wars in human history. The Spanish conquests of the Aztec and Inca empires demonstrated how technology, disease, and military strategy could destroy even massive civilizations in a short time. Entire societies collapsed, reshaping the Americas forever. As European empires expanded, wars between them also intensified. The 30 Years' War devastated Europe, killing millions and reshaping religious and political boundaries. It ended with the Peace of Westphalia, which introduced the modern concept of nation-states and sovereignty. The Age of Empires reached its peak with global colonial competition. Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, and others fought wars across continents, turning the entire world into a battlefield of influence. Then came the most devastating wars in human history. World War I began with a single assassination, but quickly escalated into a global conflict involving alliances that dragged entire continents into war. Industrial technology made destruction faster and deadlier than ever before. Trench warfare, machine guns, artillery, and chemical weapons created unimaginable suffering. Empires collapsed, including the Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, German, and Russian empires. But the aftermath of World War I did not bring lasting peace. It created conditions for even greater conflict. World War II became the largest and most destructive war in human history. Entire nations mobilized. Civilian populations were targeted. Cities were destroyed. The Holocaust revealed the darkest depths of human cruelty. And for the first time, nuclear weapons were used in warfare, instantly destroying Hiroshima and Nagasaki. When the war ended, the world had changed forever. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, beginning the Cold War. Although it never became a direct global battlefield, it shaped decades of politics, proxy wars, nuclear tension, and technological competition. The space race, military advancements, and global alliances were all products of this silent war between ideologies. Regional conflicts continued across Korea, Vietnam, the Middle East, and Africa, each shaped by the legacy of global power struggles. But as the world entered the modern age, war also evolved. It became less about swords and tanks alone, and more about technology, economics, intelligence, and influence. Cyber warfare and information control became new weapons in a digital battlefield. From ancient tribes to nuclear powers, the pattern remains the same. War has always been a force that reshapes civilization. It destroys, but it also builds. It ends empires, but creates new ones. And it forces humanity to evolve. Looking back across thousands of years of conflict, one truth becomes clear. Every major war in history did not just change borders, it changed humanity itself. And even now, the story is not finished.